This story is based on a powerful novel that explores betrayal, injustice, and redemption. It follows a man who is wrongfully imprisoned in a fortress from which no one has ever escaped. But inside that dark place, he discovers something that transforms his entire life. Presented by Unique Storytellers, The Count of Monte Cristo. The story opens with a group of men sailing across the sea toward a remote island. They're employees of a merchant ship, and their captain has fallen seriously ill. Hoping to find medical help, they dock at the island. Two friends step off the boat. One is Edmond, and the other is Mondego. The island they arrive at is called Elba, but just as they set foot on land, British soldiers stationed there suddenly confront them. Before the soldiers can seize them, a commanding figure steps forward. It's none other than Napoleon Bonaparte, the former French leader, who has been stripped of his power and confined here under heavy British surveillance. They keep him isolated to prevent him from sending messages or meeting anyone. Seeing the two men, Napoleon tells the soldiers, "If you wish to kill them, go ahead, but they are not my men." The soldiers ask who they are, and Edmond explains that they're merchant sailors, seeking medical aid for their sick captain. Once the truth is clear, the soldiers let them go. Napoleon, moved by Edmond's loyalty and courage, offers them medical supplies. Later that night, he invites Edmond to walk with him. He tells Edmond that his efforts to save his captain's life have deeply touched him. Impressed by his integrity, Napoleon hands him a letter and asks him to deliver it to a man named Monsieur Clarion. He insists that Edmond must not speak of this letter to anyone, not even his closest friend. But as Napoleon gives him the letter, Mondego watches from a distance, silently observing everything. Edmond returns to his quarters, keeping the secret to himself. He doesn't mention the letter to Mondego. Soon, they must leave the island, as their captain's condition worsens, and unfortunately, he doesn't survive. Back at their shipping company, Edmond's brave decisions and his attempt to save the captain earn him a promotion. He's made the new captain of the ship. Overjoyed, Edmond rushes to share the news with his beloved Mercedes. He tells her that he's now the captain and ready to marry her. Mondego is also present there, the same friend who was with Edmond on the island. He too loves Mercedes. In fact, all three of them have been childhood friends. But Mercedes only loves Edmond. When Mondego learns that Edmond has been made captain, a quiet jealousy begins to grow within him. Soon after, Mondego meets another man from his ship, someone who clearly harbors resentment toward Edmond. This man believes he should have been made captain, but the position was given to Edmond instead. He asks, "So your friend is the new captain?" Mondego replies with a hint of bitterness, saying Edmond may promise friendship, but he still keeps secrets from him. The man presses further. What kind of secrets? From there, the scene shifts. Edmond is suddenly confronted by royal guards. They seize him and escort him to the magistrate. The authorities have learned that Edmond is carrying a letter, one given to him by Napoleon Bonaparte. When questioned, Edmond tells the truth. He admits that the letter is still in his possession and that he hasn't handed it to anyone, simply because no one ever came to collect it. He then hands the letter over to the magistrate. The magistrate reads it carefully and reveals that the letter contains detailed information about British troop positions, who is stationed where and when. It's clearly part of Napoleon's escape plan. Edmond, stunned, insists he had no idea. He explains that Napoleon assured him the letter was harmless, and he never read it out of respect for that trust. The magistrate looks into Edmond's eyes and says he sees honesty. He tells Edmond he's free to go, but just as Edmond turns to leave, the magistrate asks, "Do you know who is supposed to collect this letter?" Edmond says yes. Upon hearing the name, the magistrate immediately burns the letter. He then asks Edmond if he told anyone about the letter or the person it was meant for. Edmond says no. The magistrate expresses regret, saying, "You've suffered because of me. That's why my men will escort you home in a carriage." As Edmond steps into the carriage, the door suddenly locks behind him. He quickly realizes he's been arrested. Despite the trap, Edmond manages to escape. He rushes to Mondego and confesses everything. He tells him that back on the island, Napoleon gave him a letter meant for one of his spies. He admits he kept it secret and didn't tell Mondego. But Mondego already knows. He says he saw Napoleon hand Edmond the letter and even read it while Edmond was asleep. Mondego also reveals that he informed the magistrate. Edmond is devastated. He can't understand why his closest friend would betray him. The truth is painful. Mondego is in love with Mercedes, Edmond's fiancée. He wants her for himself. As Edmond tries to flee, Mondego stops him at sword point. A fierce duel breaks out between them. But Edmond isn't skilled in sword fighting, and he loses. Guards arrive and take Edmond away to a remote island prison, a place so feared, no one has ever escaped from it. Edmond is brought before the warden. He pleads his innocence, but the warden coldly replies that he already knows. If Edmond were truly guilty, he wouldn't have been sent here. He would have been locked away in a regular prison in France. Then, without warning, the warden beats him brutally. He declares that once a year, he offers a gift to his prisoners, and this is it. After the assault, Edmond is thrown into a dark, isolated cell. The cell has only a small window and a wooden door that opens just once a year, when the warden returns to deliver another round of punishment. Time crawls by. A full year passes, and the warden comes again, beating Edmond mercilessly. Slowly, Edmond's spirit begins to break. He even considers ending his life. But just as he's about to give up, his eyes fall on a message scratched into the wall. God will give me justice. Those words stop him. He holds on. But as the years drag on, Edmond's faith begins to fade. 4 years have now passed in this prison, known as Château d'If. One day, while lying in despair, he hears a strange sound, something shifting beneath the ground. Suddenly, a man emerges through the floor. The stranger introduces himself as Faria. At first, Edmond thinks he's digging a tunnel to escape. Faria explains that he's been in prison here for 11 years, and for the past 5, he's been digging this tunnel. Faria then asks to stand on Edmond's shoulders. From a small window, he catches a glimpse of the sky. After 11 long years, it's the first time he's seen it, and the sight fills him with joy. He tells Edmond that he had been digging in the wrong direction all along. But now, with Edmond's help, they can dig the right way. Together, they can finish the tunnel and escape. Faria estimates it will take 8 more years. Edmond, already 7 years into his sentence, and he laughs at the thought. But then Faria makes a promise. If Edmond helps him escape, he will give him something priceless in return. Everything he's ever learned. He'll teach him science, philosophy, economics, mathematics, everything he knows. Edmond agrees, and the two begin working together. Faria also trains Edmond in sword fighting, a skill in which he excels. Each day, Edmond must return to his cell twice. Once when the guard brings a bucket for waste, and once when food is delivered. They use these moments to their advantage. The dirt they dig from the tunnel is hidden in the toilet bucket, mixed with waste, so the guards never suspect a thing. Bit by bit, they move closer to freedom. As time passes, Edmond begins to master every skill he's taught. One day, the old man shares his own story. He reveals that he once served in Napoleon's army, but eventually left it. After that, he became the secretary to a wealthy and kind-hearted man. Sadly, that man passed away. Rumors spread that he had hidden a vast treasure, and Napoleon desperately wanted it. Faria was captured and interrogated, accused of knowing the treasure's secret, but he insists he knew nothing about it. Since then, he's been imprisoned in this fortress. Edmond, in turn, shares his own story. He explains how Magistrate Villefort had initially cleared him of all charges, but later reversed his decision and had him arrested. Edmond recalls a moment when Villefort asked who was supposed to collect Napoleon's letter. Edmond had answered truthfully, and upon hearing the name, Villefort burned the letter. Edmond finds it strange. Why would a magistrate destroy such critical evidence of treason against the country? Then, the truth dawns on him. The man who was meant to receive the letter was Villefort's own father, a former colonel in Napoleon's army. If that letter had reached him, Villefort's father would have been accused of treason, and that would have destroyed Villefort's career and reputation. Edmond realizes that Villefort betrayed him to protect himself. As the days go by, Edmond and Faria continue digging. One day, they reach the roots of a tree, proof that they've made it to the outer edge. Now, they only need to dig upward, which will take just a few more weeks. But as they crawl slightly upward through the tunnel, the ceiling begins to collapse. Before Faria can escape, a cascade of stones falls on him. Edmond pulls him out, but Faria is gravely injured. As he takes his final breaths, Faria confesses something important. He says he lied earlier. He doesn't know about the treasure. He hands Edmond a map and explains that on the Italian coast, there's an island called Monte Cristo. Using this map, Edmond can find the treasure. Faria urges him to use it for good, to help others and bring justice. Edmond, heartbroken, says he'll never be able to escape now. The tunnel is completely blocked, but Faria, with his last breath, tells him to keep trying. And then, he passes away. Just then, the guards arrive and discover that Faria has died. They enter the cell, unaware that Edmond is hiding beneath the stones near the tunnel they've been digging. The guards wrap Faria's body in a burial shroud and leave to summon the warden. When the warden arrives, he prepares to dispose of the body, according to prison tradition, chaining the corpse with iron locks and tossing it into the sea. The guards announce they'll throw the body on the count of 3, but just as they begin to count down, a hand bursts out of the shroud. It's not Faria inside, it's Edmond. He has placed Faria's body back in the cell and climbed into the burial wrap himself. Edmond grabs the warden's key and pulls him into the water. He unlocks the chains, frees himself, and before the warden can escape, Edmond strikes him down in the sea. Swimming with all his strength, Edmond reaches a nearby island. For the first time in years, he breathes the air of freedom. His heart fills with joy. But as he explores the shore, he sees a group of men gathered. They're pirates, and they're about to execute one of their own for betrayal. Some of the crew want him dead, while others plead for mercy. Their leader struggles to make a decision. Then, spotting Edmond, the leader proposes a solution. He tells Edmond to fight the accused man, named Jacopo. Whoever survives will earn a place in their crew. A knife fight begins between Edmond and Jacopo. Edmond overpowers him, but chooses not to kill. Instead, he spares Jacopo's life and turns to the leader, saying, "Let him live. You'll gain another loyal and capable ally." The leader agrees. Jacopo, moved by Edmond's mercy, pledges himself to him for life. From that moment on, they become allies. The pirates then set their sail, leaving the island behind. After years of suffering and transformation, Edmond returns to his hometown. Jacopo is by his side. Edmond visits an old acquaintance, but the man doesn't recognize him. After all, it's been 13 long years, and Edmond's appearance has completely changed. Edmond tells him he's a friend of Edmond Dantès and wants to know what happened to his family. The man shares heartbreaking news. After Edmond was accused of treason, his father couldn't bear the shame and took his own life. Edmond asks who made the accusation. The man explains that it was Villefort, the magistrate who had Edmond arrested. After that, Villefort was promoted and became the chief prosecutor in Paris. Around that time, Villefort's own father was mysteriously murdered. Edmond then travels with Jacopo to the island of Monte Cristo, determined to find the treasure Faria spoke of. Deep beneath the water, Edmond discovers massive chests overflowing with gold. There's so much wealth, they can't carry it all at once. Even with all this gold, Edmond doesn't rush to spend it. He has a plan. He then heads to Paris and purchases a grand palace. He adopts a new identity. He becomes the Count of Monte Cristo. His first move is to uncover Mondégo's weaknesses. He learns that Mondego is drowning in debt and has taken out a loan from a bank. Edmond instructs his men to buy that bank. He also targets every shipping company that does business with Mondego, persuading them to cut ties. Still, Edmond needs a way to get close to Mondégo's family. He discovers that Mondego and Mercedes have a son named Albert. Edmond arranges for Albert to be kidnapped, then personally rescues him. This heroic act earns him the family's trust. His plan works perfectly. Albert, grateful and impressed, invites Edmond, now known as the Count of Monte Cristo, to dinner at their home. He introduces him to his father, Mondego. Mondego doesn't recognize Edmond at all. The man standing before him is wealthy, refined, and powerful. Nothing like the young sailor he betrayed years ago. He couldn't imagine, even in his wildest dreams, that this is Edmond Dantès. Later, Edmond meets Mercedes at the party. As they dance together, she feels a strange familiarity. Something about him stirs old memories, but she doesn't recognize him. In her heart, Edmond is long dead. Yet during the party, she notices a subtle gesture. Edmond twirls his hair with his finger, a habit she remembers well. That moment confirms her suspicion. She realizes this man is Edmond. When Edmond leaves the party, Mercedes is already waiting inside his carriage. She tells him, "I recognized you." But Edmond refuses to acknowledge it. He says, "The man you're speaking of is dead." Mercedes insists, "I know it's you." She explains that Magistrate Villefort told her Edmond had been executed, and in her grief, she was forced to marry Mondego. But Edmond doesn't listen. He asks her to leave the carriage, and she steps out, heartbroken. Meanwhile, Edmond sets another plan in motion. He convinces both Mondego and Villefort that he has found a treasure and that a shipment is arriving soon. He tells them he needs their help to get it through customs. They believe him, thinking they can seize the shipment and claim the gold for themselves. Mondego says he knows someone who can help, a trusted old friend. When the shipment arrives at the port, Mondego's friend is there. Years ago, this same man was promoted to captain instead of Edmond, and he had helped Mondego frame Edmond. Now, as they attempt to steal the treasure, Edmond arrives with the police. The man is arrested on the spot. Edmond then goes straight to Villefort's home. He confronts him, asking why he lied to Mercedes all those years ago, why he told her Edmond had been executed. Villefort struggles to respond. Edmond accuses him of conspiring with Mondego to ensure Mercedes would marry him. He reveals that Villefort had made a deal with Mondego because he feared his own father's loyalty to Napoleon. Edmond says, "You were so afraid of your father's allegiance that you ordered Mondego to kill him." Villefort admits the truth, but says Edmond will never be able to prove it. He insists that Mondego will never accept it either. Edmond replies, "You're right, he won't. But you just did." At that moment, the police emerge from behind the smoke and arrest Villefort for orchestrating his father's murder. Now, Mondego is desperate to flee the city. He's drowning in debt, facing multiple fraud charges, and now even accused of murder. He urges Mercedes to leave with him, but she refuses. He says, "Fine, then I'll leave with my son." That's when Mercedes reveals the truth. He's not your son. He's Edmond's. She explains that after hearing of Edmond's death, she married Mondego out of helplessness. Mondego is furious. He storms off and heads straight to the place where he had hidden the stolen treasure. But when he opens the boxes, he finds nothing but dirt. Just then, Edmond arrives, revealing his true identity. Mondego is stunned. He gasps, "You're alive?" Enraged, he attacks Edmond with a sword. But Edmond, now a master swordsman, defeats him in a single strike. But before Edmond can finish him, Albert, Mondego's son, arrives and attacks Edmond, unaware of the truth. Just as he's about to strike, Mercedes rushes in and stops him. She tells Albert, "Mondego is not your real father. Edmond is your father." Everyone is shocked. Albert is overwhelmed, but also relieved. He's finally reunited with his true parents. Suddenly, Mondego pulls out a gun. As he aims to shoot Edmond, Jacopo throws a knife, causing him to miss. But the bullet grazes Mercedes' shoulder. Mondego flees, knowing his gun had only one bullet. Edmond chases him down. They engage in a final sword fight, and Edmond defeats him once and for all. In the end, Edmond purchases the very prison where he spent 13 years of his life, Château d'If. He vows that no one else will ever suffer the way he did. He will dedicate his life to truth and justice, just as Faria had urged him to do with his dying breath. And that brings us to the end of this unforgettable journey of betrayal, resilience, and redemption. The Count of Monte Cristo isn't just a story of revenge. It's a story of reclaiming identity, of rising from the ashes, and of choosing justice over vengeance. If this story moved you, inspired you, or simply kept you hooked till the very end, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories like this to life. Let us know in the comments what part of Edmond's journey touched you the most. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep watching Unique Storytellers.